Hey there. Welcome to Speak Your Peace podcast. My name is Ian McNaughton, Big E here. I'm all by myself today. We're kind of doing this podcast on short notice a little bit, mostly because everybody that I asked to do it this week is either doing exams or they got schoolwork, and I'm also getting caught up in schoolwork as well. So it didn't really work out to have a guest on this week. That being said, we're doing kind of a mailbag question and kind of an Ian rambles on for an extended period of time podcast, which I think there's enough people who would listen to that. I would hope, maybe not. We'll see in the views and the ratings on this. Thank you very much for joining me. Recording this Wednesday, December 1st. We're already into December of 2021, which kind of goes back to the meme of me seeing that it's already 2022, also me trying to figure out how we're not in 2020 anymore, which I think there's some truth to that. I think we're all kind of in a way living in 2020 still, aren't we? 2020 and 2021, we're barely just getting by that. I got three questions I'm going to do for a mailbag. I'm going to talk about some other stuff later on. So basically 4 people responded to the question sticker on Instagram. So thank you for those who did send a question or a comment. Like if you're Shmuel, SYP Creator Corey. First, he says that college football is for bozos. And what Corey doesn't understand or didn't realize before sending that is that I am indeed a bozo. 100%. I'm willing to fully admit that I'm a bozo. That's not an insult I get very often. Usually it's along the lines of like dumbass, fat ass, 4 eyes, that sort of thing. So bozo is kind of one of those ones that I think we should be bringing back in terms of like, it's not like it doesn't have a curse word. It's kind of like one of those old timey insults that's just meant to make you feel bad, not meant to make you feel angry. Meant to make you feel like a sad depression type vibe, which I think we should be bringing back. I'd rather be sad than angry. Corey says college football is for bozos. I don't know. I'm kind of getting back into college football a little bit with some of these coaching hires. Lincoln Riley going to USC. Now I finally have a reason to watch USC football. We'll know more in the upcoming weeks about bowl games and potential matchups. So far as I'm recording this, the only bowl game matchups that we know so far are the Bahamas Bowls features Middle Tennessee and Toledo, which I'm kind of surprised they're going back to the Bahamas, but good for Toledo and Middle Tennessee. Talk about a culture change there. Memphis is going to be playing the Hawaii Bowl. I guess not against Hawaii. East Carolina is playing in the Military Bowl. That's kind of cool. That's it. That's all for teams and matchups that we know in bowl games. So no, college football, I mean, it kind of is for bozos, but it's also for smart intellectuals like myself, who I think at the same time I can be a bozo and an intellectual. I think that could be applicable. But I mean, we got a really fascinating playoff coming. We got major college football coaching changes. Be sure to check out my article on reasons college football is changing on speakyourpeace.ca. Great article, I thought. That's what people are saying, is that it's a great article. So we'll probably have more college football content coming for you over the holidays. So that should be exciting. Corey also asks, can the Canucks not be terrible, and should they fire Travis Green? Great questions. I think the Canucks cannot be terrible. I thought this team was going to be a playoff team. I thought the forwards were going to be scoring enough, the goaltending was going to be good, and that the defense would hold up enough to get them as like a wild card team or the third team in the Pacific, which clearly isn't happening right now. But I think firing Travis Green, and I have other Canucks questions here, so I can go on the Canucks here for a bit. I think with Travis Green, I said this, I think, on the last podcast I did with Rav, where Travis Green is more valuable to the Canucks than anybody else. It's like Michael Saunders when he played outfielder for the Mariners. Like that guy is more valuable to the actual organization that he's with than with anybody else. Like like we can talk about Montreal for a little bit too, but like Nick Suzuki is the top line center for the Habs, and the Habs drafted him. Bergevin made him a top line center. He was somebody that he thought he could build around. He got the extension in the offseason. That's a guy who I think teams like. I think teams really like. I just think he has the most value with the team he's with right now. Same with Travis Green. I think Travis Green would get a head coaching job in another team, in another market. I don't think that's a concern. It's just right now, he's more valuable to the Canucks than anybody else. Would firing Travis Green really do anything for them? I don't know. I do get the feeling that firing Green would be a last-ditch effort to save this season, and I don't know that that's really worthwhile. This team stinks. It's not going to make the playoffs, barring some miraculous comeback. And I know people are going to say, well, the Blues went from last to first. And it's just like, okay, but how often does that happen? Like, that doesn't happen very often. Like that, the Blues were the exception, not the norm. And I think if Travis Green is not your guy, if he's not your coach moving forward, you get rid of him. You rip off the Band-Aid. What's the point? You don't need to drag him out and drag him along this awful path, because this isn't really his fault. I think he deserves a little bit of blame for it, but I don't think the Canucks' failures this year are a large part of, are largely due to Travis Green's coaching. I don't think that's true. Can the Canucks not be terrible? Yeah, they can not be terrible. I don't know about this season, but certainly down the line, they can be not terrible. I listen, this team has the pieces to be successful. They have a typically quality number one center in Pettersson. They have a bunch of great wingers with Besser, Miller. Connor Garland's been really good this year. JT Miller is somebody that I really like. They even have, I think Bo Horvat's good. Like their top six forwards are fine. And I'm not even including Podkolzin or Hoglander, who I think will be top six forwards here in the coming years. Like I think their top six is really good. It's probably in the better half of the league, I would say. You have a defense that stinks outside of Quinn Hughes. And that's not quite being generous to Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who's had a bit of a bounce back season, but still nowhere close to the 7 point whatever he's making. Tyler Myers, not good. The Tyler Myers experiment has not been great. Tucker Poolman, I think, still has 3 more years after this one. That's a shitty contract. I like Quinn Hughes. I don't know. I'm starting to have doubts about him being a top D-man that you build around. And part of me is thinking about how in like Colorado and Vegas, for example, they have multiple number one defensemen that they can just lean on at any given time. With Colorado, you can either get Devon Toews, Cale Makar, Bowen Byram. Colorado is pretty well set in, here's a guy that we're going to lean on every night to be our top guy. Or in Vegas, it's like, hey, here's Shea Theodore or Alex Pietrangelo or Alec Martinez. Like, there's multiple guys that they can build around. And for Vancouver, I think, Quinn Hughes definitely a top pair D-man. They just don't have anybody else to build around with him. Like being a successful team means that you have like 3 to 4 minimum good D-man, minimum good, like in your top 4. And Vancouver, I'm going to check to see what the Canucks lines are. Vancouver is not even close to that. They are far from being that team that has 4 4 good defenders. So you have, according to Daily Faceoff right now, the top D pair of Ekman Larson Myers, yikes, Quinn Hughes, Luke Shen, yeah, and Kyle Burrows and Tucker Poolman. Listen, I like Luke Shen if he's on a bottom pair. I don't really like Tucker Poolman. I think he's okay, but not at the contract he's making. Listen, this decor sucks. I've said it before, but if the Canucks are going to be good, if they really want to be good, if they want to be not terrible, fix your decor. And maybe that's where you have to trade Podkolzin or Hoglander, Bo Horvat. I don't know. I'm just saying that's a way to fix it. And Thatcher Demko, that dude rocks. I think Thatcher Demko is a great goalie. He should be probably, I mean, Rav and I talked about it a few weeks ago. It's going to be between Campbell and Demko for the 3rd spot, which is about right. Like that seems fair for Thatcher Demko and how well he's been playing this season and in years past. So we'll see. I'm not sure what to make of the Canucks on ice for the rest of the season, but we'll see. It's probably gonna be bad before it gets better. It's gonna be worse before it gets better. Another question: why does Benning still have a job? So we talked about the on-ice product with Vancouver. Let me talk about the off-ice product with Vancouver. So the reason Jim Benning still has a job is because of incompetence at the ownership level. And I've said this on this podcast multiple times before. Working for a team, an organization, not just in sports, like this is just in general. This is working for any business, for any store, whatever. It starts from the top and works its way down. Like the vibe, the work ethic, the effort level provided, it all starts from the top. So I've given this example before about how the Washington football team and the New York Knicks, 2 terrible organizations since I've been born. They have been awful outside of a couple decent years. Knicks with Carmelo, Washington with RG3. There has been a small sample of success in what has otherwise been a pretty putrid 20 plus years. So with the Canucks, their ownership group has decided that this is good enough. This is fine. This is okay. And that's not good because you're basically just not doing anything. You're being inactive. And I think a lot of inactivity, how do I say this? You're already losing. Listen, they're already losing now on the ice, but off the ice, you don't have any leverage. You don't have any sort of power or control when you're being inactive like this. Because any smart GM who sees what's going on in Vancouver recognizes that, oh, these guys are desperate. These guys are not happy with what's going on. There is a good amount of panic in Vancouver. Any smart GM can recognize this. Any smart owner should be able to recognize this. And the reason Benny still has a job is nothing really to do with his own. It's not really his fault that he's got here. It is to a certain extent, but he's just doing his thing. Like, we know Benny's not a great GM. Like, we know this. He's he's basically still doing his thing. Like, this is Jim Benning doing his thing for like the last 3-4 years. Like, we know what he is, and he's still doing his thing. He hasn't been bad enough to be fired, or at least not according to Francesco Aquilini, who, if he was not happy, he would have fired him, right? That's how it goes. Unless Aquilini likes losing, and maybe he's a masochist and he just enjoys, his own pain, fans' pain. Maybe that's what this is about. But Benning still has a job because of inactivity from ownership. It starts from the top down. If the owner isn't, putting his foot down, establishing control, then this is what happens. Stuff like this. And last season in the lockout, or in the bubble, not a lockout, in the bubble, there's an argument to just be made that everything was a shitstorm. Everything. Between the COVID outbreak, just the whole B situation. PD was not healthy, but he also wasn't performing at the same time. So it gets to a point where you probably should have done it last year. Get rid of everybody, cleaning house. Now you've stretched this even further. Like, we're going to go into 2022, and there's no organizational changes for the Canucks. If they haven't made changes now, when are they going to make changes? Like, do we think there's a farther, like a deeper down rock bottom that they go to? That's where I see this going with the Canucks. And it's all on ownership. It's all on the back of ownership. Ownership has the responsibility and the choice to do anything, to do something if they want to. And they've decided no. They've decided that they aren't interested in doing anything. So as a result, this is what you get. This is what's going to be happening. Whether the Canucks actually make a change, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm getting mixed signals from everybody, and I really don't know what the appropriate course of action is. I really don't. And the other issue then becomes, I don't know that Aquilini does. I don't know that Jim Benning does. Here's the other thing. You can't, because one of the things I'm hearing right now from Friedman and a couple other people, Elliot Friedman, Sportsnet, you might have heard of him. What I'm hearing right now is the Canucks are afraid to make a move because they're afraid it will bite them in the ass later on down the line. Like, if they trade Petey and Petey becomes this otherworldly superstar, shit, well, we made a mistake trade. Like, they don't want to make a franchise altering move that's going to set them back even further. Well, you can't go to Aquilini and say, hey, don't make any trades. We don't want to trade. We don't want to make any moves, so don't make any moves. Like, at that point, let the guy go, because that's his job. That's the job as the general manager, is to make moves, is to improve the team. And yeah, you can say that the team has not been improved under Aquilini or Benning, but you can't tell Benning no. You can't tell him, don't make a move. We don't want to make a move. Like, that's just stupid. Just say you don't, just say he's gone. Just say you're out the door. You're done. Goodbye. We're, adios. Like, just say you're done with him. Like, so in case you haven't got the message here, Benning still has a job because of the owner's incompetence and because he's just doing his thing. Jim Benning's just doing what he does. It's been good. It's been working so far. He hasn't got fired yet. So, anyways, and the other thing I want to mention here with this. So, looking at like Montreal, for example, with Bergevin, Scott Mellenby, and a couple other people leaving on Saturday, Sunday from New York, from the Habs. The difference with those guys, and I've been making this point recently in a few other things, but sometimes things just run its course. Like it's like sometimes things just happen, they work out or they don't, and you just get to a point where you just run your course and you got to the end of it. It's over, like it's done. And that's kind of how I felt about Bergevin with Montreal last year. Bergevin went all in. Like he put his what on the table and went for it last year. He went and got Jake Allen. He went and got Josh Anderson. He traded Max Domi and I think a pick and signed Josh Anderson to a big deal. Like, he signed Tyler Toffoli last year and he went all in. He was like, this is it. This is our chance. This is our opportunity. And while Montreal had a pretty bland regular season, they did have a surprising playoff run. I don't think anybody would tell you that team was really that good. That was a strong case of NHL parity and luck and just doing enough to get by, not actually controlling any of it. So with Bergevin, even this, like the start of the season did not go well. And regardless of really the Stanley Cup finals, like I think you kind of have to throw that out the window because the team wasn't really that good. And now everybody who was on that team is, a lot of the leaders are either injured or gone. And it just kind of runs its course. Like you just kind of, you kind of got to the end of the line. Like that was your opportunity. That was your chance to go win a cup and it didn't work out. And you kind of just move on. Like it is what it is. It was fun while it lasted. There were some highs and lows, but you just move on. Things run its course. And that's what's happened here in Vancouver with Benning and Aquilini. It's run its course. And it happened a long time ago. It happened before the bubble. Like things ran its course. We got to the end. We saw what this is like. Like you can't ask for 5 more years, give us 3 more years, 5 years into this. Like you can't. So that's kind of my deal about like the difference between Benning and the Canucks and Bergevin and the Habs. And even like going back to last year, like Tortorella and the Blue Jackets. Tortorella and the Blue Jackets just ran its course. Like we just got to the end of it. We saw what it was like. It's like, okay, we're done. We're going our separate ways. We've had enough. Torts had some really good playoff runs with Columbus. He kind of ran notable players out of town, i.e. Artemi Panarin, Sergei Bobrovsky, Matt Duchene. And then last season when, shit kind of hit the fan for them, it's just they ran its course. It's done. It's over. It was fun while it lasted. But this is the end. This is it. There is no going further. So we'll see what it's like in Vancouver with Benning. I don't think Benning and or Green are going to get fired before 2022. Maybe that's a New Year's resolution for them is to fire their GM. Finally, I got one baseball question here, which I love to see. Pierre asks, is Buster Posey a Hall of Famer? And when I first saw this, I was like, yeah, he's a Hall of Famer, right? He's got to be. I mean, one of the best catchers of my generation, 7-time All-Star, 3-time World Series champion. I mean, yeah, like I feel like he's a Hall of Famer. I don't know how. I mean, so career-wise, he has 1,500 hits, 158 home runs. Like the stats for Posey as a hitter, they're pretty good. Like, 39 doubles in 2012, 34 in 2013, 28 2014, 28 2015, 33 2016, 34 in 2017. Like, for being a catcher, Not too bad, I don't think. I mean, he's obviously, dealt with health injuries. Like he's had some health issues. Um, he didn't play in 2020 because of, the pandemic. I really like Buster Posey. So he is retiring this year, age 34. I'd like to see him make the Hall of Fame. I kind of think he is. I don't know if that's a hot take. Let me know. Like, you know, even in the postseason, like in the 2010 run, he was really good. Like that's where obviously a lot of that those Giants players really took off, was in 2010 with Buster Posey, Pablo Sandoval, Tim Lincecum, Baumgartner a little bit, but not really. And then, the 2012 run, Posey wasn't as good in 2012, but he was still a critical piece for that team. You know, and you get to 2014 when they have to beat the Royals. Really good to start the postseason against Washington and Pittsburgh. Slowed down quite a bit against St. Louis and Kansas City. But I mean, like him and Baumgartner were just outrageously good in that World Series against Kansas City. And I don't know if the voting committee will look at that and go, yeah, he had a 200 batting average against the Cardinals in 2014 NLCS. He had a 154 batting average against the Royals, but he was, catching for Madison Baumgartner, who had an all-time playoff performance, like one of the greatest playoff performances ever. And then even this year, having a resurgence, he had a 300 batting average against the Dodgers in the postseason. Regular hitting, like a 390 on base percentage, a 499, almost 500 slugging percentage. I not the greatest batter, I will admit. Absolutely tremendous Gold Glove catcher, and I think he's going to be in. So, 7-time All-Star, 3-time World Series champion, NL MVP in 2012, a catcher MVP. Just to give you an idea, how rare, how often that doesn't happen. Let me pull this up just to show everybody. This is always great. So yeah, Buster Posey was the last catcher to win an MVP in 2012. And before then, Joe Mauer in 2009. And before that, Ivan Rodriguez, Pudge Rodriguez in 1999. Like, catchers don't win MVPs. And this is in the NL, by the way, that Buster Posey is getting a catcher. The last catcher in the NL before Posey to get an MVP, like, we're going way back to Johnny Bench in 1972. Like, that's just how good this guy was, especially during that 2010 to 2015 dynasty that the Giants had. So I'm going to say Buster Posey Hall of Fame. He's got my vote for it. So there you go. That's all the mailbag questions. Trying to think if there's anything else that I really want to discuss before I head out here. We got a couple of streaming events that I think we're doing, some live streams with some junior games. We got a Bachelorette podcast coming soon. So, that's kind of one of our favorite pods, I think, for people really like us when we do Bachelorette podcasts. So we'll be doing that December 15th. I think it's when we're recording that. We got some World Junior streams, posting a bit more, some more podcasts coming out as well. So December is going to be the month of SYP, really. Yeah, that's all I got for today. Thank you very much for listening. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. I'll be back next week. Hopefully we'll have 2 shows that we can do next week. That's the goal. And we'll be back again soon. Thanks again for listening or watching. Peace out. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video on YouTube. Follow us or add us on Spotify. Same with Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll catch you next week. Bye, everybody.